Teaching Tax Flow podcast, where the goal is to empower and educate you to legally and ethically minimize taxes paid over your lifetime.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Teaching Tax Flow podcast. Today we're going to jump into episode 41 and have a look at a mid-year update from the IRS. But before we do that, as always, let's take a moment to thank our sponsor.
This podcast is brought to you by Legacy Lock. If you are new to estate planning or simply need to review your current plan, Legacy Lock makes it as easy as pie. Legacy Lock is a unique platform that enables you to easily complete your attorney-drafted documents conveniently from the comfort of your home or office. Your first step to this peace of mind is simply visiting teachingtaxflow.com/legacy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Teaching Tax Flow podcast. Great episode as always today. We're actually recording live from Taxposium here in San Antonio, Texas. Chris Bacchero, my partner in crime here on the podcast, also known as a co-host, the master of all taxes. I got to come up with a better intro for you, but hey, Chris, how's it going, my man?
I've been called a lot worse, and I am awesome. Great to be here. Excited about Taxposium this year, and excited to give everyone a mid-year, we're a little past mid-year, but mid-year update from the IRS as we'll talk a lot about tax planning, tax strategy here in the Teaching Tax Flow community, but it's also important to be very wary of tax schemes, identity theft, and the IRS, in my opinion, does a really nice job of warning taxpayers about that. I don't expect that most of our subscribers and listeners hit up the IRS website very often, so we'd like to give people an update once in a while on what's been going on, what to be thinking about, because unfortunately there's some bad eggs out there.
Mean there's scams in the tax world? No.
Believe it or not, I know, because you would think who'd want to pay my taxes for me, but unfortunately it's the other way around. So
we all love those text messages, right? Where you get it and it's like, please call us right away regarding your tax. You owe us $15,000 in a phone call. That's you're going to jail if you don't Bitcoin us $10,000 or send a $250 Amazon gift card. So all those scams aside, what are some of the biggest ones that the IRS has put out? I know those ones we'll get into a little bit with, we'll call them consumer scams a little bit more on that side. But what's the other ones that the IRS is now warning us about?
Well, the IRS reiterates to people, and you could check this out on the irs.gov website. We'll put this link in the show notes. But keep in mind, as a taxpayer, the IRS is not going in. Our buddy Andrew Poulos talked about this. The IRS is not going to email you or text you. Okay? They will typically send a letter to you, and even some of those, and some of these scammers have gotten very talented at making letters look like they're coming from the IRS. So again, make sure you talk to your tax professional if you think you received that.
You're giving them a lot of credit calling them talented, although they are. They have a lot of work ethic and dedication. Let's put it that way.
Yes, unfortunately, it's for the wrong direction. Exactly. So the IRS really is seeing a lot of emails and text scams going out. So they had just here on July 21st, they sent out a news release warning taxpayers to be on the lookout for these type of tax scams. I'm going to talk to you about the main tax scams. Of course, there are several of them. But the first one that they are worrying about happens to be related to the old economic impact payment. Now, if you remember, during the pandemic, the federal government issued a wave of, it ended up being 3 different economic impact payments over the course of 2 years. These economic impact payments were based on your filing status, dependents, how much your taxable income was, and then unfortunately for taxpayers and tax professionals, they were reconciled on your tax return. Right now, the highest volume of email schemes that the IRS are seeing are relating to you'll get an email that says, quote unquote, third round of economic impact payment status available. So if you remember, you're not going to receive an email from the IRS. And if you see anything related to economic impact payments on an email, immediately, if it's me, I block that emailer and report it.
Mm-hmm. And I know one thing too, Chris, kind of a I guess this is just from a whole tech perspective. The tricky part is too, is like in a lot of these emails, they're either asking something for it directly, if I remember correctly, but there may also just be a link in there. So don't click on any links. If anybody says they're from the IRS, just delete it, get rid of it completely, block it. Do not click on anything on there. Is that still the case?
That's the case. And that third round that I just previously mentioned of economic impact payments, those went out back in 2021. So this is a 2-year-old situation. And I also would say when you get that email, a lot of times the email looks like it's coming from someone legitimate, and if you really look at the email address, it's sinister.
They're legitimately a pain in the beep,
Absolutely. So in that email scam, what's happening with the economic impact payment is that the IRS or the scammers are encouraging you to click on that email link and allegedly fill out an application for an economic impact payment that you will never get. So please be wary of that email scam per the IRS. And we talk about one of the laws of teaching tax flow is that tax agencies are your involuntary business partner. Usually it's kind of a negative connotation because we're talking about tax planning and strategy, but it can be positive. The IRS is looking out for its the taxpayers it services, making sure that they're not scammed.
Mm-hmm. So, and even Chris at this event, here again, we're in San Antonio, a little hotter than I'm used to, a little toasty, but we're at Taxposium, which is put on by NATP. So I'm going to get this wrong. The National Association of Tax Preparers? Professionals. Okay, I knew
that's all. You're close. We'll give you a B+.
Hey, you know what? I'll take it. And what's cool about that too is that there's a lot of y'all's industry brain power at this event. So if you happen to hear anybody talking behind us, we're literally doing this in a hallway right now, so no guarantees on what you might hear behind us. But this is, I'm sure, going to be a hot topic, which I'm sure is every year, right? So it's, I from a tech and marketing perspective, I don't see this is never going to stop completely. I think the more tech that gets injected into the world we live in, the more opportunity it has for this. And of course, being in different countries where a lot of these scammers are coming from, it's completely different laws, should we say it, that it's not really worth anybody following up with. It's not like the IRS is going to go to a different country, not pinpointing any specifically, and try to track down this person who's sending out these emails. Likely not going to happen, correct?
Correct, because the enforcement costs and the logistics of it aren't worth it. So the other one, so there's 4 or 5 of these, but the next one, we've talked about this on the Teaching Tax Flow podcast, the ERC, or some people call it the ERTC, the Employee Retention Tax Credit. There are a lot of businesses that are eligible for this tax credit. This came about during the pandemic, and it really entails a business owner amending their payroll tax returns to take a credit for employees that were retained. So the statute of limitations to claim that is pretty much running out right now, right? We're in the third quarter of 2023. But what the IRS is saying is that there's a significant increase in false ERC claims. There are a lot of fly-by-night companies, and again, we talked about this in a previous podcast with our friends at Engineered Tax Service, that are just popping out of the woodworks and saying ERC consultants of the United States, and I've even received these letters. If you own a business, you probably have received a letter that says you might be eligible for $27,000 per employee. And on our records, you have 10 employees, or they'll mail you a fake check for $96,000.
And it's intensity, right? For any business owner that sounds like it's a legitimate, credit they could get of, say, $100, $200, $300,000, it kind of gets your attention a little bit, right? So I think a lot of people may be taking that bait. We call it that.
Yes, and we, to mention our buddy Andrew again, the IRS guru, he thinks, and he said, and I remember this, word on the street is that the IRS is going to audit these ERC claims. So again, we had one in our company. We retained our employees during the pandemic. We were eligible for that credit. There are several people that are eligible, that are clients that have taken advantage of it, people like TTF Community, but there are some bad eggs out there. So really, really be careful about that employee retention credit. My best advice is this. If you're going to claim that credit, assume you're getting audited, because the chances are pretty good that you will.
Great advice. We'll repeat it again. If you take that credit, claim that credit, assume you will be audited. Great advice.
Yes. Third one, another email and text scheme playing off tax refunds. So what's happening is taxpayers are getting an email or text that says, claim your tax refund online. There's been a change to your account. And it gives people that false sense of, oh, I'm owed some bigger, more refund. Maybe my employer screwed up. Maybe I made a payment that I didn't know about. And watch out. Obviously, like we said, the IRS is not going to text or email you. And a lot of these schemes have misspelled words and improper use of the English language. The one the IRS mentions, and I'm going to quote the IRS off their website. This is a text someone would have received is, we checked an error in the calculation on your tax for the last payment in the amount of $927.22. Folks, typically the IRS routes to the nearest dollar. In order for us to return the excess payment, you need to create an create an e-refund, after which the funds will be credited to your specific bank. So there are phishing for your bank account. Think about if you have, remember the economic impact payments that I just mentioned. If you had direct deposit on your tax return the year before the EIPs came out, they automatically directly deposited the EIPs. IRS has that information. Be very, very weary of the, quote, claim your tax refund online scheme. So though we've got a couple more, but you could imagine, John, you're a taxpayer. I don't know if you've gotten any text messages, emails from...
I feel like the texts I get all the time. The voicemails, fortunately, have stopped for me, but the texts are a big one. And it's kind of going back to a little bit related to, but a little bit off of this. If anybody's ever gotten, somebody that's trying to buy something, I'm going to date myself a little bit, Craigslist. You go to buy something on Craigslist, you might be selling it, a car for $5,000 or $6,000. Somebody says, hey, I'll give you $10,000 and then mail me the difference. That's a little bit different, but it's kind of the same tactics, right? So people are kind of, and we'll call it preying. They're preying on basically the gullibility, I think that's the right word here, of just people trusting the IRS as being a credible source, where now somebody is now falsifying themselves, falsifying their own identity as that credible source. And some people may not think twice. They might think, why would somebody be so stupid to pretend that they're the IRS? And then next thing you know, you're in
trouble. Exactly, you're in trouble. And what's happening is that these scammers in the IRS, again, IRS is trying to make people aware, they're creating a fake sense of urgency. Either, oh my gosh, there's money on the table that I didn't receive and I'm getting ripped off, or, oh no, I didn't get this refund, or, oh gosh, they're creating this fake problem, for lack of a better term, and then the scheme is trying to help you fix this fake problem, giving you a call to action to either provide your bank account information or something to that ilk, which ties into the third out of four, the help you fix it text scheme. So this is strictly a text scheme that people are getting scammed on, and identity thieves come up with a name on a text message that sounds kind of like the IRS. So it could be like IRS GOV-2023 or some type of vanity account, and they send a variety of messages that say there's a problem with your person's tax return, but don't worry, they can help you fix it. You just have to click on that text message and give them your bank information. So again, the help you fix it text scheme is number 3. And you've mentioned that you've gotten some crazy texts. The last one from the IRS's summer update is the delivery service scam at your door. So it's not DoorDash there with a pizza or some tacos, which would be great. But earlier in July, the IRS warned taxpayers to be on the lookout for a new scam mailing that tries to mislead people into believing they are owed a refund. So this one is not an email. It's not text. It's something that gets mailed to you. And the new scheme involves a mailing that arrives in a cardboard envelope from a delivery service that looks like it's coming from the IRS. And the wording says, in relation to your unclaimed refund. So that one scares me because they're actually mailing something to you, and you've seen a lot of those where it looks like it's coming from something legitimate. And we all know the IRS mails things to you. So it's still the same idea that create a sense of urgency, create a problem that you didn't think you had, and by the way, you can fix it. But the letter will typically direct you to click to go to a website and put in your banking information.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chris, for sharing those with us. Again, I'm excited to be here at Taxposium. I'm not in your world every single day, so I hope to consume some of your brain power, some of this knowledge. And again, I'm sure this is going to be a hot topic. Really, the biggest takeaway here is just, I wouldn't even say due diligence, just proceed with caution. Everything you do regarding this, just proceed with caution. If there is anything that, you're in question of, like Chris, you had mentioned that last one that I think was number 4, is, now these scammers are potentially getting more in tune with what people are more accustomed to or believe is more true, and that's, kind of hands-on or something more tangible. So if there are any questions, any concerns with that, would the best suggested, Chris, maybe just be contact your tax professional?
First step, absolutely contact your tax professional, or even your software provider if you do it yourself. Also, there is an email, phishing with a PH, phishing@irs.gov is the official, they're not IRS email if you suspect there's a scam. And they get hundreds of emails daily.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Chris, again for sharing those, man. Really appreciate it. IRS, thank you for putting out those warnings to us. As taxpayers, we got to pay enough in taxes. So let's save as much as we can and not give it to somebody else that's trying to rip us off. So thank you again for everybody for joining us here on the Teaching Tax Flow podcast, live from Taxposium 23 here in San Antonio, Texas, out here for this great event. We're going to leave with some great knowledge. I know Chris is actually going to be up on stage here in a few days doing a great presentation to a couple hundred people. We look forward to that. Maybe we'll snag some pictures of him, maybe track him down to the hallway, and maybe we'll get a little interview with him. I don't know, maybe he'll sign my t-shirt. We'll see how lucky I am. But until then, everybody have a fantastic week, and we will see you soon. Hey everybody, John here from the Teaching Tax Flow team. Thank you as always for joining us on this show. Unfortunately, a lot of you probably are already aware of those scams that are out there with those bad actors, bad characters pretending to be from the IRS because they want your money. So now you're maybe a little bit more aware of them, or some of the other ones that are out there. Or worst case scenario, at least it's top of mind. So you can be a little bit more aware of it when the time comes, but you may unfortunately have one of those in your inbox, in your voicemail, in a text message. So thank you for joining us here. Thank you for the ideas. This one, I believe we actually had an email from somebody asking if we had any updates from the IRS, hence why we did the show. But moving forward, again, as always, send over any thoughts, ideas, show guests, anything you may have in mind for us. And also jump on that Defeating Taxes at www.defeatingtaxes.com. That's our private Facebook group. And let us know some of those crazy stories of the scams that you may have been, I should say, alerted to from those that are pretending to be from the IRS. So shoot us a message in there, drop it in. We'll actually probably get on the page and start the conversation so you guys don't even have to. I'm just asking what some of those experiences are. So as always, thank you from our whole team. See everybody next week.
The content of this podcast does not constitute an offer of securities. Offerings can only be made through an offering memorandum, and you should carefully examine the risk factors and other information contained in the memorandum. The content provided is for educational purposes only. We encourage you to seek personalized investment advice from your financial professional. For all tax and legal advice, please consult your CPA or attorney. Investment advisory services are offered through Cabin Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Cabin Securities, a registered broker-dealer.